Hi Tribers, it's me, Kim Berry, and I'm here to show you a peekaboo wood grain tumbler. I love doing the glitter tumblers, and this is kind of a different technique. I'm using a Spin-It. I got it from Michael's. My other chicken rotisserie homemade one is in the other room with a tumbler on it currently, so I thought I'd give this a try. I'm not sure what I think of it yet because I haven't really tried it yet, so it's kind of an experiment. I'll put it in links if it works out for us. I always have it prepped. I tape off the top and bottom using electrical tape because it's really stretchy and forgiving and gives me a nice crisp line. Then I paint the entire cup flat white. Then I mix up my epoxy after this dries and make sure it's completely dry. I mix up my 2-part epoxy. I am using Alumilite. You mix it and let it sit for a little bit, about 5 to 10 minutes. And you pick out your glitters while you're waiting so that you're ready to go. What's going to happen is we're going to pour a float coat of epoxy on this so that it moves. We're going to heat it up so that it moves even more, and we're going to add our glitters. I always have some rubbing alcohol and a rag nearby for drips and spills, except on this mat. This is a silicone mat, and the drips will just harden and pop off like plastic, as will this silicone cup. That way I don't have to waste cups, paper cups or plastic cups or anything. And popsicle sticks. They make silicone stirring tools, which I probably will get soon, but I have not done that yet. All right, so we're ready to go. We're going to pour this on, and we're just going to kind of let it flow. I do best with my hand because I can feel it and tell the thickness and where it is and where it isn't, because we want the whole cup to be coated with epoxy. I don't take it over to the bottom, like I said, because of the dropping it. If you drop it and you take it all the way to the bottom, it will crack. It will crack your whole glass-like epoxy coat. So that's a personal preference of mine, that I tape off my top and bottom. You don't have to. You can take it all the way to the top and bottom. But I like the feel of the actual stainless steel against my lid and my mouth compared to the epoxy, and it won't hurt you, it's fine. But if you drop your mug or your tumbler and that epoxy hits the ground, then it's going to be broken like glass. It will shatter. Whereas this way I don't have that issue. I don't want it on the inside of the tumbler, so that's another reason why I'm always ready to go with my alcohol. I always wear the nitrile gloves, not just regular latex, because epoxy is a chemical, so you need to be aware and be careful, read all the precautions. A lot of people wear respirators, chemical respirators. That would probably be a good idea to invest in one, which I have not done yet, but I am considering it. All right, so now we've got this flowing on here, and I'm going to use this heat gun to heat it up. It's going to be loud. It's the same type of heat gun you use for embossing in rubber stamping. And it's going to heat up that epoxy to make it flow even more so that our glitters will kind of meld together. Okay, and I've got several different glitters picked out. I'm just going to sprinkle them randomly here and there, and they're just going to fall on the mat. This is kind of a coppery orange color. And I'm going to switch to some other, I have some blue and some pink. And it doesn't really matter where it lands because it's going to be everywhere eventually. I love this shade of pink. I'm checking here to get it evenly dispersed a little bit here and there. This is a neat one. It's a unicorn, kind of holographic. So it picks up other colors really well that are in this cup. As you can see, it's flowing around and blending. I'm going to add some purple. These are all fairly chunky glitters with a little bit of fine glitter mixed in. Add some green. I know it looks like a mishmash now of color. That's kind of what we're looking for. That's the whole point of floating it on here like that. Okay, just double checking for any blank spots. All right, it's looking pretty good. Now we're going to heat it up again to really make those colors flow. It is a bit messy, as you can see. Now you understand the logo. If I had enough glitter, I could rule the world. This is where it comes from. My husband said all of us, even our cats and every bit of company and visitor that comes over, leaves with a little sparkle. That's not such a bad thing. All right. That's why I invest in dust busters. We go suck all that up with the dust buster. So here it is. It's kind of rolling and flowing. This is going to keep going for a while. You will see it's kind of that drippy, floaty effect is going to keep spinning, and it'll level itself out. So if you do see some clumping, don't worry. But if you see blank spots, go ahead while we can and add our glitter. Because as this cures, it will be really nice and hard in about 6 to 9 hours, depending on our humidity and everything. And then we'll put another coat over it to encapsulate it and seal it so it's really glass-like and smooth. So I'll be back when we're ready for part 2. I did want to add one more detail. The tape edges, I fold them under so they're easy to grab, because in 30 minutes I need to remove this tape off the top and bottom so that it doesn't seal to the cup. I want to be able to get that tape off. So I'll set the timer for about 35 minutes. You're safe anywhere from about 30 to 45 minutes. And then you'll peel that tape off and all that edge will be nice and crisp and clean. So I wanted to make sure to get that detail to you. We are back with our Peekaboo Wood Grain Glitter Tumbler. We are doing the base coat. We started yesterday with a float coat of glitter, and it spun all night and cured, so the resin is nice and hard like glass. I took it off this morning and I wet sanded it. I use 800 grit wet dry sandpaper, but I do a wet sand on it so that it makes it really smooth. These are the gloves I was talking about wearing instead of just latex, because you're using epoxy, and that's an important thing to remember to keep your skin safe. This is the epoxy I was talking about. It's a 2-part epoxy. Here again, I right now still buy it at Michael's because I'm not in the tumbler business. If I was in the tumbler business, I would find a better, cheaper way to buy it, but I use my 40 or 50% off coupon and don't have to pay that much for it. The electrical tape I use for taping the bottom and top edges, like we talked about yesterday, and the alcohol that I always have handy because it helps dissolve the stickiness that the resin or the epoxy creates. I've got it mixed up. You carefully measure part A and part B equally. You stir and you try not to incorporate bubbles. You'll have some, and usually they will dissipate on their own in our nice warm weather. If not, I have taken a torch, like a creme brulee torch, to it to get out the rest of the micro bubbles. You have to be careful. Don't get too close. You're just trying to heat up the epoxy and release those bubbles. And you saw me use it yesterday, a heat gun, an embossing gun for rubber stamping. That works too. It doesn't work as well as the heat torch on bubbles, but it does do a good job if you would prefer to use that because of the heat torch being intimidating, given that it's fire. So we're getting ready to put on that second coat to encapsulate all our glitter. And then we're going to move on to the third step, which will be giving it a base paint. You're going to paint over all this beautiful glitter. And then you're going to paint wood grain on that. And then the magic will happen. So stay with me, and I will piece these videos together for you and give you all the links so you know what I bought and how to get those products. All right, stay with me. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, Tribers, it's been about 40 minutes on the spinner, and this is when you've got to take the tape off so that you don't risk it sealing to your cup. So I thought I'd show you that. I turned the spinner off and I put my gloves on, new gloves. I'm going to give a shout out to all my nurse friends, especially those that work at the school with me, because every time I take this off and get rid of these gloves, I always think of our bloodborne pathogens lecture, because the same way you handle plastic gloves after a bloodborne pathogen exposure is the same thing you do here. And I'll show you in a minute. It's kind of funny what you think about when you're doing tumblers. Okay, so here it is. I'm peeling it off, being careful not to touch the actual tumbler itself, just the edges. I'm going to pull this off. And remember, I keep my rubbing alcohol handy because I'm going to go real quick and swab off any smears from my fingers or this tape. All right, so before I do that, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Here's your stickiness. This will get everywhere, so be careful. So you pull one over the other, and the bottom one over the top, and all of that's concealed. Just a helpful tip from the nurses that work with us for bloodborne pathogens. Okay, here's the tumbler after that second coat of epoxy is cured. I'm coating it with some white flat primer, coating right over top of that glitter. I've taped off the top and bottom again because I don't want my paint on there. Then we're going to go inside and wood grain it. I'll show you that process next. Okay, here we are resuming with the glitter peekaboo wood grain tumbler. I'm going to try to talk a little louder because the laser's going in the background. I'm real busy with projects, and so I've got to get this done and that done simultaneously. So I've covered up the beautiful glitter with white flat paint, and now we're going to do the wood grain painting. You use alcohol ink. I'm using two shades, kind of a yellowy butterscotch undertone, and then a brown to give it the wood grain, and a cheap brush with not great bristles to kind of add to the texture of that painting technique. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with the lighter tones first and then go darker. You just put kind of a drop and use your brush to kind of flick it from the bottom up. And you're going to go in varying patterns so that you can bring it down, and it's going to start creating a wood grain as these colors overlap. It takes a little bit of time to see it come, but you'll see. Have faith. I'm just going to keep flicking. Just a drop here and there. It doesn't have to be complete, perfect streaks. We kind of want them to get layered on there. Like real wood grain would be. I'm going to spend a little time with my bristles kind of stroking and playing with it. Alcohol inks are great. They can be used on a variety of things. Metal, acrylic, plastics, wood. Lots of different ways of using them besides rubber stamping. They kind of came about long ago. I had my alcohol inks before they were really trendy like they are now. And it was for projects that I did with paper arts. Now, as you can see, you're starting to get just the start of the striations that you want to see. In wood grain. I'm going to do this whole tumbler, and so that you don't have to watch every step of this coat, I'm going to stop and I'll bring you back when I start adding the darker highlights. Okay, so here's the base coat of the butterscotch alcohol ink, and it's created some of those layers and striations, and now I'm going to go back through with some of the dark one. I'm going to give it a quick shake because it's been sitting while I did this. You just keep layering color, the same color over and over, and allowing it to make those lines for you. Let it do the work. And we're just going to come in and do the same thing with the darker brown. And I'm gonna do this, and then I'll show you when I am done applying the darker brown what it looks like. Okay, so here is what the wood grain looks like. I'm gonna go coat it with clear, and then we're going to reveal the glitter underneath. And it's going to be kind of a cracked wood peekaboo where you can see inside as if it was hiding a geode or a crystal garden inside this wood. Okay, so here we are with our wood grain tumbler. I've clear coated the alcohol inks, just one coat, and now we're using rubbing alcohol in a rag and some elbow grease to create kind of a jagged path to reveal that glitter, that crystal underneath for the effect of peekaboo. So we're gonna saturate some rubbing alcohol. I buy the high 91% because it's more solvent. And we're gonna start and we're gonna smoosh. And it takes a little bit of elbow grease to get through, and it's supposed to be an irregular pattern, so you don't have to be real scientific with it. But we're taking away the layer of wood grain and paint and all that other stuff that we just put on to reveal the glitter underneath. That's where the magic happens. Also, I thought I'd show you, anybody that likes doing tumblers should probably get a dollar pool noodle, rubber band them together, because it's a great way to work on your cups. Okay, so I'm gonna keep working on this, smooshing the alcohol and wearing away some of this hard work we've put into it. And when I get it all cleaned up, I'll show you the final product.